Hello, welcome to another episode of Forgotten Cemeteries, Pacific Northwest. Today we're at Butteville Cemetery, located in Butteville, Oregon, Marion County. Alternative names, when you look this up in the Oregon Burial Site Guide, they talk about old versus new Butteville. Apparently most of the burials from the old were transferred to the present Butteville Cemetery on Schultz Road. So let's go meet some of the local residents and hear their story. Alright, a little bit about the history of the cemetery, and they got this little sign up front if you want to read it as I'm talking. The old cemetery was established in 1836 and ended in 1858 from my understanding. A lot of information I read, it came from the Oregon Burial Site Guide. So therefore the new cemetery was established in 1858, taking over for the central location. It's unknown exactly how many individuals were buried at the old cemetery. However, it is one of the oldest cemeteries in the state of Oregon. There's an estimated 500 to 2,000 burials. I will say that some headstones are missing from my understanding, and we'll get to see an unmarked grave. Well, I guess we won't, but sort of. They think the location's at that spot. There's a ton of history here. I imagine this video will be pretty long, so apologies if it is. Some very early pioneer arrivals can be found here. We'll also see the founder of Butteville, who arrived in Oregon in 1842, and a couple of Civil War vets as well. And I believe there's another hummingbird flying by me. I don't know. Camera attracts hummingbirds. So I think there's a descendant of Daniel Boone here, I believe. Okay, our first stop is Gustavus Adolphus Boone Sr., born in 1798 in Windsor County, Vermont. He would serve in the War of 1812 in the Vermont militia. Must have been pretty young, because it looks like he was about 14 when he served. Only info I could find on Vermont's involvement in 1812 was that they served military campaigns primarily in northern New York in a Battle of Plattsburgh, or sometimes known as the Battle of Lake Champlain, led by United States commanders Thomas McDonnell and Alexander Macomb. This is an important battle because it would end the British invasion of the northern states during the War of 1812. Pretty cool story was Vermont's governor at the time tried to call back Vermont's militia in 1813. Appears there was some politics involved, and since federal trade was stopped between Canada and Vermont during the war, basically hurting their economy. Fortunately, the Vermont militia officers refused to return and chose to stay and fight, which is good because it looked like Vermont made up 34% of the United States forces in that battle. Okay, pretty close to the entrance you could find the Whitneys. Elizabeth is here, William's over here, and I believe that might be their son on the right based on the birth years. But Liz in the center was born in 1808 in Lincolnshire, England. William was actually born the same year in 1808 in Cambridgeshire, England. Nothing on their youth, but they got married in 1827. They both immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 22 in 1830 to New Jersey. They lived there for about 2 years, then PA for 2 years, then moved to Indiana, living there for 12 years, then moved to Missouri and lived there until 1846. They probably realized they were in Missouri and took the Oregon Trail in 1847. They would buy a farm, raise 9 children. Apparently they had 35 grandchildren altogether, so pretty large family. Alright, here's that burial I was telling you about. That's kind of unknown, but they think the person's buried here. But on the left, we have John Henry Blacker, born in Frederick County in 1811 and came to Oregon in 1850. Couldn't find much on the Blackers, but this was just an example of the old versus new when they moved the old burials over to here. So John's headstone is over here. You can see it's very large. And then their son is on the right here. And I think the person on Find a Grave mentioned that in the center here, they believe that John's wife, Hannah Shields Baker, is buried there. All right, just met one of the locals here, Dorothy, who actually lives right next door to this cemetery and owns a farm, I believe. I think she said her father bought it in 1942, and she's lived here about 80 years. So you run into really nice people in these old cemeteries. That's why I kind of really am a big advocate for just going out and visiting these places, checking them out, meeting some of the locals, and you hear little stories like that. So, like Ezra L. Cross's story here, he was born in 1842, birthplace is unknown. He is a Civil War vet. You can see that cliche style we've seen of the headstone. He served in the New Hampshire 2nd Infantry and 1st Cavalry. They saw several battles, the more popular ones being Bull Run, Williamsburg, and Gettysburg. They were led by a man named Gilman Marston, who was a bit of a hard ass in my readings. During the first Battle of Bull Run, his arm was shattered. They wanted to amputate it, but I guess he kind of went like, it's fine, and made a recovery. And then he fought in the second Battle of Bull Run in Fredericksburg. Okay, we have another Civil War vet here, John Grabade. Nothing on Find a Grave about his story or anywhere else, but he did serve in the 2nd Rhode Island Infantry. Come to think of it, I don't think we've seen a Rhode Island vet yet, so this is probably our first one. A little bit about the Rhode Island Infantry. They fought in the Battle of Bull Run, the first one, the very first major battle of the Civil War from my understanding. I read that Rhode Island fired the first volley in the Battle of Bull Run as well. Looks like they're listed as fighting in 17 battles. Saw a ton of action. Most notable is the battles of Williamsburg, Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, the Wilderness, and Cold Harbor. Reading up on Cold Harbor, it's classified as one of American history's most bloody, lopsided battles. The Confederates would be victorious in this battle, with the Union losing close to 13,000 soldiers and the Confederates losing around 5,000. The reason being is apparently the Confederates built like an elaborate system of fortifications, so I don't know if it was confusing to the enemy or it was just outright hard to attack it. Union Commander Ulysses S. Grant is quoted as writing, "I have always regretted that the last assault at Cold Harbor was ever made. No advantage whatsoever was gained to compensate for the heavy loss we sustained." I feel old. That nice woman that lives next door called me sir. Jeez, I remember when people just said, "Hey kid." So we have Marion Prentice Gear here. Mary's grave led me down a rabbit hole of cemetery and Gear family history. She's kind of the one I talked about at what was it, Ralph Gear at Mount Hope Cemetery. She's the one that kind of sparked my whole interest in the whole family history. But I think the Gear family story is exactly why historical cemeteries are in trouble. So we'll first start off with Mary and her husband Frederick Wolcott Gear. For some reason, Frederick's obituary has no mention of where he's truly buried. However, I kind of have a theory based on what I found. Mary was born in Rochester, New York in 1810. Frederick, her husband, was born in Connecticut in 1817. Mary and Frederick met and got married in 1841 in Illinois, most likely, based on my readings. They would travel the plains by oxen in 1846, destined for Oregon. It was about a 6-month journey, and I think we talked about this before. On average, it was about 6 months on the Oregon Trail. They settled on a donation land claim in Clackamas County, 640 acres to be exact, and what we now know as Butteville. Frederick and Mary turned their donation land into a highly successful farm. They also had 10 children together, from what I read. Frederick owned a hotel at one time and ran the first steamboat on the Willamette River. He was also a member of the Masonic fraternity and served several years for the Justice of the Peace. Appears to be a very involved family in the state of Oregon overall. I mean, we learned about Ralph Gear. Frederick's father, Joseph Carey Gear Sr., seemed also highly respected in the community. Joseph served in the War of 1812 versus Britain, actually. So it looks like Joseph arrived in Oregon 1 year after his son and Mary arrived, 1847, just for a reminder. Joseph would live out his days here in Clackamas and was the oldest member of the Pioneer Association. So I'm reading about the Gear family and came to find that there's a small cemetery close to here called Gear Cemetery. However, this is yet another example of why historic cemeteries are forgotten and fading away. And I'll just read what a Find a Grave user posted on the homepage of Joseph Greer, which said he's buried in Greer Cemetery. So, this tiny cemetery that Joseph and a lot of his family were buried in sits right of the corner of a big filbert orchard. I was told by someone who lives out there near it at one time that the person who owns or possibly now owned, since they may have sold it to someone else, did not like having a little cemetery in the corner of the filbert orchard. And the person I talked to said they believe he buried or removed some of the old gravestones that were there or damaged them so badly with farm equipment, harvesting as filberts that the gravestones were disposed of. When I was there for many years ago, there was only one gravestone left, sad to say. Somebody who lived across the highway from there said that they had pictures that had been taken so long ago of many of the gravestones that were once there before that got destroyed or vandalized or whatever happened to them. I was never able to work out a deal with them to get copies of those priceless treasure pictures. Sad. I obtained a highway project report that was done when the highway department was considering widening the road beside the cemetery, and they did a ground penetrating radar on the cemetery to try to determine how many people were buried there, and it was something like 27 images of people in graves they determined. And if they widened the road, it would undermine a bunch of those graves, so it was not done. So with that said, maybe Mary's husband, Frederick, just might be buried at Geer Cemetery. Others have said that he is buried right next to Mary here. Doesn't look like we'll ever know. Here's another Geer, Theodore Dwight Geer to be exact. He was born in 1843 and is the son of Mary and Frederick Geer that we just talked about. The write-up said that he's related to those buried at Geer Cemetery. I thought that was kind of interesting. Theodore would marry Francis Xavier Matthieu's daughter, Philomene. Her father, Francis, actually founded Butteville, and we'll learn about his story here soon. He'll be up next because he's a couple feet away, actually. All right, here is Francis Xavier Matthieu. Pretty striking headstone if you visit here, memorial. Big American flag in front of it, kind of in the center of the cemetery, and it's a big memorial. So probably the most prominent individual at this cemetery, obviously. So Francis Xavier Matthieu was born in 1818 in Terrebonne, Lauderdale region, Quebec. Probably massacred that. The article said it's basically a small village near Montreal. Francis had very little schooling and worked at the age of 12 in Montreal at a dry goods store. I guess there was a rebellion at some time about equal rights in Canada around 1830, and he took the opportunity to escape the country at the end of it. He would make it to Albany and work as a carpenter for a little over a year, then moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, then to Chicago, and then to St. Louis. He got a job with the American Fur Company in 1839, where he was responsible for trade with the Indians. He would then move to Nebraska, and at one time got invited to a feast with the Indians. At first he declined once he learned that the main course was dog, but then he realized it may be disrespectful for him to kind of reject an offer from Native Americans. He would pay another Indian to eat his share out of respect. Looks like he made a trip to Santa Fe at one time, not sure why, and then he returned to Fort Laramie in Wyoming. When he returned, he found that the Native Americans turned hostile, having been supplied rum. I didn't really understand that. There was no like background information on what the rum was about. Maybe they just wanted to get their hands on it. Maybe there was a money-making aspect to that. I'm not really sure. But it looks like he made 2 more trips to the Rocky Mountains in 1840 and 1841. Again, no reason why, no explanation. He would make the decision to join up with a party traveling the plains to Oregon in 1842, however. And he would also serve as their guide, because I'm guessing with how much traveling this guy did, he became very familiar with the United States. In 1842, he arrived at Fort Vancouver without shoes or socks, apparently, and I think I read that he had to do a trade there where I think he traded like food for socks and shoes. From there, he traveled and settled in French Prairie, one of the earliest settlements in the Willamette Valley, which I think we now call Kaiser, Oregon. He was one of the voters for the Oregon provincial government. You can probably see that over here, the little write-up, and I'll show you the other side of the headstone as well. In 1844, he married a woman named Rosa Osang. Read that he had 14 children with her, so they must have got along well. In 1846, he made a land purchase and at one point traveled to California during the gold rush in 1849. He was unsuccessful in hitting the lottery, though. In 1848, he was the deputy of the quartermaster during the Cayuse War. He would then return home and found Butteville in 1851. From there, he was pretty successful, served as the Justice of the Territorial Court, County Commissioner, and was selected as the state legislator from 1874 to 1878. He was a Mason and organized one of the first lodges in Oregon. He would die at the age of 95 in 1914 and was the last survivor of the 52 persons that formed the first civil government west of the Rocky Mountains, May 2nd, 1843 at Champlain, Oregon. And you can observe that there. I'm sure you've read that by now. And just want to show you guys this side to honor one of those patriots who on May 2nd, 1843 at Champlain saved the Oregon country to this nation. And really cool aspect, another dar plate right there from the Multnomah chapter from 1930 actually. And here's Jonathan Stephen Juan, born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1829. He would cross the plains in 1852. He was a saddler by trade, but also worked on steamboats as a cook. He would eventually open up a harness shop for 8 years and then decided to get into the hops business. He would become the third hops grower in Oregon during that time. Fun fact, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho grow 99% of the hops in the USA. I was hoping to find James E. Bishop, and I finally found him. He's way up front by the road by the fence. He's another Civil War vet, born in 1838. He served in the 6th Kansas Cavalry and looks like they saw a few battles. More importantly, they served in the Battle of Honey Springs. This battle was important because the Union won Indian territories, what we now know as Oklahoma, actually. Also, the unique thing about this famous battle was the white man was actually the minority in the battle. Both the Union and Confederate sides were made up of Native Americans, and the Union side had African American soldiers. Okay, I think the tour is going to be fun when we do it. There's a lot of interesting little headstones. Pretty excited to show you guys. So, somewhere at this cemetery is John Mason Miller. There's no grave marker. He is a Civil War vet, but it sounds like he's buried in the Potter's markers, and apparently they're at the southeast corner. So maybe during our tour we'll see what that exactly is or come across it. And for those that don't know, Potter's fields are typically graves of the unknown or the unclaimed. So on to John Mason Miller's story. He was born in Georgia in 1827. Though a Southerner, John was won over by the Republicans when Civil War broke out, and he would enlist in the 10th Tennessee Regiment, and John fought throughout the entire war from my understanding, taking part in several engagements for the Union Army. The only battle I could find that the 10th Tennessee Regiment fought in was the Battle of Stone River. An interesting read during this battle was at one point the two armies were camped within 700 yards of each other, and the Confederate and Union bands had like sort of a musical battle. I think I read it was like the night before they did this. So finally, during this musical battle, one band started playing Home Sweet Home, and the others on both sides joined in. Thousands of Northern and Southern soldiers sang the sentimental song together across the lines before going to battle. John would come to Oregon in 1886 and die at the age of 95 in 1922. Cool little find was he was also apparently known for being extremely protective of his axe. So I wanted to show you George L. Boone's headstone here because he led me to a very interesting story, and there's like an update now when I came here, because when I first looked on Find a Grave, I did not find George's father's headstone anywhere on Find a Grave, who is Jesse Vanbibber Boone, who was born in 1824. And we're going to look at that in a second here. And here is Jesse Vanbibber Boone. If you go on Find a Grave for this cemetery and you type in Boone, you won't see this headstone logged yet. So maybe that's something that I could do or somebody else can do. That I don't have a Find a Grave account, but thinking about getting one the more I research these cemeteries, because there are things I see sometimes I'm like, huh, that's not in there. So Jesse's father would settle on the south side of the Willamette River. Interestingly enough, Jesse's father, Alphonso Boone, who came to Oregon in 1846, was the grandson of Daniel Boone. And this is directly from a Champlain Media Group article, and I'll link that below for your reading if you're interested. But Jesse Vanbibber Boone operated a ferry and with others started clearing and building a 15-mile long wooden plank or corridor road to Portland through Tualatin. It merged with John Taylor's Ferry Road about 1 mile from Macadam Avenue and just north of Selwood Bridge. Taylor's Ferry was located on the Tualatin River at what is now called Pacific Highway 99 West. You can still travel most of Boone's Ferry Road north and south of the Willamette River, actually. Jesse Boone died in a shotgun blast March 24th, 1872. He was 48 at the time, and he left a wife and 6 children. So, according to the official accounts, reading up here, Boone's neighbor, Jacob Engel, fired the shot during a dispute about wandering sheep and access to the river. A flock of Engel's sheep had wandered into Boone's pasture, something that happened several times, and one of Boone's sons was trying to drive them out when Engel threatened him with a double-barreled shotgun. The son ran to the river and returned with his father. During the confrontation, Engel fired 1 blast, killing Jesse Boone. Jesse Boone's original grave and those of his children and wife was in the old cemetery closer to the center of Butteville. However, when I was reading a little more on it, the burial details were unknown. I read that the Boone family believed he is buried with the family in Wilsonville, Oregon. This marker was placed at the intersection of Boone's Ferry Road and Torrigo Boulevard in Portland, Oregon in 1937. However, if we look here, we see an updated headstone, and there's a couple to the left and right of them of Boone's that look brand new, like very recent. And if you look down, I'll kind of show you during the tour, there's actually the wooden 2x4s holding the concrete block in shape. So it'll be a first. I looked for this one for a while, and it's like right next to the gate, so I thought I'd cover it towards the end of the video. But we have Dr. Thomas White, who was born in 1796. He married his wife Susan White in 1822. They both were from Marion, came to the Plains with his wife in 1852. Sadly, I couldn't find an obituary on him, but very interesting headstone. I like the design. You can see it cracked in 2 places, at the top and at the bottom. It looks like someone made an attempt to repair it, so that's good. Would have liked to know more about him, because he does have doctor in his title. And also by the front gate, you'll find George Ullery, I think that's how you say it. I think he has the oldest birth year on Find a Grave at 1792. A little pretty headstone too. Alright, time for the fun part. The tour of Butteville Cemetery. Looks like it is taken care of by the Oregon Historical Cemetery and Oregon Commission of Historical Cemeteries. Cool little gate. I don't think there's any hours. If there was, I'm assuming, what is that typical dawn to dusk. I think there's some little... Oh, we'll have to take one of those before we leave. Butteville Pioneer Cemetery newsletter. Get the feeling this is one of those community-based ones where the community takes care of it for the most part, make sure it's in good shape. I see a lot of repairs. Well, that's cool. And we got to meet Dorothy. I think she said they call her Dottie for short. But she was very nice. This is the Whitneys over here. We'll get a little close up of the headstone so you guys can check it out. It looks like there's another Whitney here. Oh, pioneers of 1847. And then Elizabeth and the Centaur. I think this was one of their sons, maybe. It's pretty neat. I don't think we've seen that yet with the tree. What do we got here? William. Again, the camera makes it just look way better. Oh what's this? And I cannot read that. I hope you guys can. But it looks like it has a cross in the center there. Some type of religious symbol. Let's see who's way down in the corner here. We'll stop here at Feller, Francis Feller. Born in 1840. Very big headstone. Check that out. Big cross on the top. But let's go check out over here. All by them lonesome self. Oh, there's a big scripture on here. I'll leave the camera there for a little bit so you can read it. Let's see who this is. That's a good start, huh? In memory of my wife and baby, Alice B. Palatz, born in 1872, 82, 92. Oh, yeah, young death. Palatz. I wonder if she died during childbirth and the baby died too. I do see that a lot, unfortunately. But like we talked about, the goal back then was to survive. Lembeke. Their elaborate design on the headstones. I think we'll try like an up and down tour this time. Normally I just kind of walk around randomly, but this one's very well organized. Birds must really like this headstone. Dang. That's the Wilson's plot right here. Elmer. Somebody by themselves over here. I always try to visit the ones by the fence. Got Sarah Albee, 1840. I like how they put the symbol of their last name up there, the letter. See what we got here. Cherry Pie. That was her name or nickname. Alright, this one's pretty cool. So we have Gay, Lynn, Crocker, Cherry Pie. One hell of a party. Mother, sister, grandmother, niece, girlfriend, 23. Sounds like a fun time. Cool, we have a World War II vet here, the U.S. Navy, Korea. It's a little angel statue and a park bench, kind of hang out. Don't know what that is on the tree, just some type of symbol. With a little frog statue. That's cool with the horses. Looks like Walter died in 2017 and waiting on Darlene. See what's in the back here. Can't read that. That one's got a lot of lichens on it. Looks like bogan. One's hidden in the back. Looks like, oh boy, I can't read it. Maybe the camera can. There's a similar headstone right next to it named James E. Lucy Scott. Edward Turpin. I'm wondering if this is the plotters area or potter's area. Apologies. I think they said the southeast corner. I meant to look on the map to see if this is the southeast corner. It's that Civil War vet we talked about. So, you can kind of go back and forth between the cemetery plots. There is plenty of parking here. A lot of parking. And it's well kept and it's very quiet. Massive plot coming up. I think we'll turn around, check out this headstone. John and George, children of John and Lewis Murray. Well, it looks like they died at the same time. Born February 4th, 1881, died February 4th, 1881. I wonder if those were twins that died during childbirth, maybe? That's the only thing I could think of. Makes sense. Right here, can't miss it, Miller. Sometimes we see this at other places where they just buy an entire lot. Claim their land. And there's Eilers behind them. That's an interesting last name. Cone is a popular last name here. Ah, there we go. Some symbolism. That's neat. You should know what that means by now if you watch the other videos. Unfortunately, you do see a little bit of this, and I'm not sure if it's vandalism at this cemetery or just old age. There's another cone. Then we have like a monstrosity of a headstone or a pillar memorial. This thing, geez, 18 feet tall? I don't know. I'm about 6, so 6, 12, yeah, 18 feet. No information on them, but apparently they were very important. So we have John Schurer, born in Darmstadt, Germany. Never heard of it. Very elaborate. There's a little write-up on there. I'm assuming it's a religious write-up. I can't read it. Hopefully you guys can. It looks like there's 3 markers in total on this little lot here. What do we got here? American U.S. Legion. So yeah, it makes me think there's a Civil War soldier buried there. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm learning as I go. It might be one of those Potter graves that we talked about. It is, I think Miller was his name. His last name, Miller Manson. Wow. This one, unfortunately, fell over. I'm interested how, oh, it looks like they tried to repair it at one time. I don't know if that's like epoxy that they try. You know, there's all sorts of epoxies these days that do crazy stuff. Copper and stainless steel ones. It's crazy what they came out with. Pretty much repair any type of pipe. And then we talked about Ezra. He's over here. And you can see that little star was back there. It makes me wonder if that's the war vet we talked about again, who was unmarked. Looks like Lamb. And again, we're seeing the letter of their last name. Got Albert Lamb here, 1896 to 1918. Didn't live very long. It looks like he served in something. 1918, is that right around when World War I started? I can't remember off the top of my head. Here's a pretty elaborate write-up. The door of death is made of gold, that mortal eyes cannot behold. But when the mortal eyes are closed, and the cold and the pale the limbs are reposed, the soul awakens and the wondering sees in her mild hand the golden keys. William Blake. Very epic. Somebody way in the back. So baby Ryan. January 5th, 1915. I don't know if that's a birth date or death year. There's just scurrying going on back there. I wonder if that's a bird fight. Nice one. Big cross on top. Oh, missed one, sorry. Some Matthieu, I think that's how you say it. Born in France. He's a Frenchman. We're seeing that a lot. These headstones with the crosses on there. Oh wow! Check this one out. It actually has Jesus on there. Schultz. So maybe this one. Kind of a neat one, like this scripture style. I don't know what to call it exactly. Like those medieval documents they delivered and they roll it down and then they put their name on it. That's cool. Very large one here too. Benjamin Carter, a native of Pennsylvania. Died in 1886, only 47 years old. But apparently well remembered. This thing's about 6.5 feet tall. And there's another monster. And a lot of scripture ones at this cemetery. Very religious so far. Hey, it's Blacker. Talked about him. His wife potentially buried here. At least that's what bit of information I found. Buried between the son and the father. If you're looking to get away from the world, I'd say this is a very good cemetery for you to visit. to think and get away from everything. I did see this guy right here when I first walked in. Don't know who it is. No headstone. But in front of that, you will find the Boone family. George. And like I said, it looks like they redid these at a certain time. They look awesome. Whoever did the job. But on Jesse Vanbibber Boone's headstone, you can see the little ferry there. The horse wagon. Like I said, I don't think he's buried here, but I think they put that memorial up. And there's Alphonso Boone that we talked about as well. Next to them, there's some older ones. They look like they're different design. These ones look like they were redone at a certain time, maybe. Could be wrong. It's kind of bleached out in my look, but the last name's Crawford, I believe. Yeah, Crawford. Feller here, another brute of a headstone marker memorial. Tell you what, it's a lot cooler. It was 114 the other day in Oregon. And it's around, I don't know, 65, 70 today. So it is a blessing. Thank God. But I think this, I'm looking around. Oh man, I don't know. It's either that one or the one we talked about earlier. I don't know. I think this one might have a beat with the little cross up there. This looks like Arsenault C. Life of George Loche. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. You can see they're fenced in. Got their claim. Oh man. Even have a gate to their little plot. This is elaborate. La Crochet? Is that how you say that? Guessing French. And check that out, a pioneer. If you go up with the camera, and selfie sticks are pretty awesome for this scenario. Looks like they got a rifle and an axe. Champlain, District of Montreal. Very nice. Yeah, looks like there probably was a cross mounted up there and it fell off, unfortunately. It was bent. Big headstone. Oh, pretty good mix of headstones and interesting ones so far. There's a little wind on the ground. Looks like we have Gilbertson in the back. Native of Limerick, Ireland. Oh wow. So we got some Irishmen. Gilbertson. Does sound very Irish, doesn't it? Way in the back here. Pretty recent, actually. I'm guessing the most recent ones are in the back and the older ones are like towards the middle and the front. Got a lot of vets here as well. Get this branch out of here. William Pickering. I can see there's symbolism. Apparently served in some type of war, 1889 and 1918. Like I said, I think that's World War I. Could be wrong. Which happens a lot. Bernicki. Interesting top of the headstone. Because I'm pretty sure World War I was around 1918, like 1914. Maybe we talked about John there from Rhode Island. 1914 to 1918. I want to say off the top of my head, apologies if not, but they're seeing that 1918 a lot here. Makes me think they died in battle, maybe. That's pretty neat with the statue right there. Looks like she's playing the harp. These would be two Matthews. We talked about Xavier, Francis Xavier Matthieu, founder of Butteville. I notice there's people walking their dogs once in a while and they stop and stare. So, like I said, it's a little weird to see a guy with a camera talking to himself in a cemetery. But, whatever. We'll just do our thing. I kind of do this for the love of it, not really for the views or subscribers or anything like that. You know, get 1 million subscribers. I just kind of do it for the fun of it, and if some people want to come along the way, that's awesome, and hope they enjoy the videos. You know, one of the first things you say when you're like, oh, I have a YouTube channel, and they ask, and I'm like, I do, you know, cemeteries, and the first question they ask, how much money do you make? And just like, not in for the money, man. More just for the historical aspect. That's one of the things I noticed when I first got into this was I'd look up like a cemetery, you know, ex-cemetery, and it would just, I don't know how to explain it. I was more interested in the history, and I guess it seemed like it was more towards shock value, I guess you could say, and I don't know. Just wanted to do something different. So there's Matthew's headstone up ahead. You can see right in the center of the cemetery, you got a park bench here, an American flag on a old wooden pole. That's neat. And there's gear. Talk about them a lot. The more south we go, the more gears we discover. They're kind of popping up everywhere. What's this? Oh, Woodman of the World, I believe. Yeah. So there you go. More symbolism here. Looks like Cook. Uh-oh. I don't think this is Headstone. I don't think we want to go in there. I think you'll find a different type of tombstone. It's up here on the ground. So, Albert Edward Smith, Private U.S. Marine Corps. That's an interesting one. This looks like pretty recent. Oh yeah, April 22nd, 2001. Darwin Carl Putnam. Pronunciations are not my specialty, and I'm sure you know that by now. But I try. Here. Let's see, tower. I think it says tower. Yeah. And here we go again. More your symbolism. So the cemetery's got a little of everything so far. It looks like there used to be some type of marker there erected, but not anymore. Don't even see a name on there, unfortunately. Seems like they usually put the name like really big on the base of it sometimes, and you can kind of get an idea, but not this one. It's here. Sales something feller. Oh, just a couple months old. Yeah. Looks like they have the lamb on top. I learned that over time. Because when I was at Hill Cemetery, I thought it was a pet grave. So at first, but then I started to see it more and realized it kind of represents an infant or a child. Another U.S. marker. Let's see, let's go this way. I think we talked about this. Bishop Yeah, he was way in the front. It looks like there's a couple bishops up towards the fence. Nice shot of that. It's a nice, cool day. The mailman stopping by. That's the last thing I expected. People at the cemetery still receiving mail? Let's check out Clark's headstone over here. Very iconic scene of the mountains and the trees. I do see these a lot, these little park bench styles, and I never want to sit on them because I feel weird sitting on them. I don't know why. She lived to laugh often and loved her family and her God, Susie, who's still alive. Kenneth, though, died in 2007. I don't know what the G stands for. Georgia Bulldogs or Green Bay Packers? Maybe. But probably not. Never know. Could be right. Oh, the mailman dropped off something. Maybe that's those pamphlets we saw when we first walked in. Water pump over here. I wonder if it works. Should. Ooh, he thinks not. We do have more symbolism here. Cone. We've seen that name a lot. I don't know what that star stands for. I'm not sure. If anyone out there knows, feel free to speak up. World War II. U.S. Army, Vietnam. Quite a bit of war vets here. Yeah, World War II, U.S. Navy. Nice little park bench in the back. That was a hole. And way in the back is Twatfest. I think that's how you say that. Wait a sec, what's this stuff on the back? Somebody buried over there, it looks like a war vet. Not sure if we're allowed back there. Let's go try to find a way in. Not that way. Barbed wire fence hurts. Oh, while we're on the way, looks like we got Schober, a little canoe. We have William Croco. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains. I wish it would rain. It's like he served. Another, wow, U.S. Navy. The iconic headstones back here. There's another religious one. That headstone back there looked like a war vets, because usually they put those American flags on there. So it is July 1st, so happy early July 4th to y'all. Hope you have a good one and a safe one. Yeah, I don't get the feeling they don't want you going into that section. It's got this lovely rusty barbed wire fence. I thought I saw a gate down here, but I don't want to approach on someone's land or something or be disrespectful. There is something right here. I don't know why it has that. I hear a lawnmower over there, and I do not want to make anyone angry, but yeah, it's pretty rusty actually. It won't even open. So we tried. Carabiners on there, like rusted, completely closed. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the tour in the cemetery. It was a good one with a lot of history. Got to meet the founder of Butteville. Found one of Daniel Boone's descendants, apparently, so that's really awesome. And got to hear some cool Civil War stories. So, if you have any recommendations for other cemeteries in the state of Oregon, feel free to leave a comment below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and also thanks for subscribing. I hope you enjoy the little travels, and have a great day and a good 4th of July. Alright, I couldn't resist. I figured out how to get that lock open. It wasn't really a lock, it was a carabiner that was just really rusted. So hopefully we won't get yelled at. I don't know if anyone will yell at us because there's nobody around, but one grave marker way in the back on this little plot, and it looks like a war vet with a park bench, and it is of Donald John Charles Whiting, U.S. Merchant Marine, World War II. So I couldn't resist. I had to know who it was. So little bonus content.